republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Commissioner Cheney?
I think Commissioner Russo's.
Dear God, we come before you today. We ask for your blessing. We ask for your grace. We ask for your mercy. We ask you to be with the commissioners and the judge as we hear the concerns of our community and we act responsibly with integrity, with compassion. We ask that we will glorify you in all we do. We thank you for the blessings of living in such a wonderful community and in the state of Texas. We ask you to be with those who are less fortunate in other countries and to guide and direct their leaders and ours. And in all things, let us glorify you. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Here.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo. Here. Commissioner Laubach. Here. Judge Mills.
Here. All right, we do have a presentation this morning, update on the status of the Workforce Development Center project.
Did we declare a quorum?
Everybody said yes, so, okay, I'll declare a quorum. Anyway, Mr. Jackson, who goes first? Oh, wait a minute, do we have any citizens to be heard first? Oh, I thought you were gonna talk later, but come on up.
My name is Jeff Hutt, 2201 Prairie Road. I'm here today in my official capacity as the Navigation District's appointed director to the local government corporation. I've been out of town for the weekend. It came to my attention late yesterday evening that there would be 4 agenda items today on today's Commissioner Court meeting agenda regarding a submission to the Commissioner's Court by the Aransas County Alliance Local Government Corporation, or the LGC, for changes to be made to the corporation's bylaws. These agenda items are 15, 16, 17, and 18. I am a director of the Aransas County Government Corporation, and our board never voted to approve new bylaws, nor to submit a request to the sponsoring entities, AC&D, Fulton, Rockport, and the county to approve any changes. Furthermore, the LGC does not have a lawyer retained to draft new bylaws, no funds to pay for a lawyer to draft new bylaws, and our board has never voted to engage a lawyer to do work for the corporation pro bono to draft new bylaws. The corporation's initial bylaws were drafted by Kim Fouts and Will Whitson of the Long-Term Recovery Group, approved by the Commissioner's Court for consideration by Kristen Barnaby's, then Aransas County Attorney's Office. However, its final version was adopted after extensive revision by the Navigation District's General Counsel, Gerald Bernadum. The final draft, the bylaw changes to the document that's being presented today are significant and substantial. If you go back and look through our meetings of the LGC, we never discussed any changes to the bylaw. We discussed one change that was moving from quarterly meetings to annual meetings. That was all that was approved. When I saw it, I was out of town, so I got this late last night, and I looked at it. None of the changes increasing the membership, times, making the contract or the LGC perpetual each year. None of these things were ever discussed by us. I do not know who is presenting this to you today, but they do not represent the LGC. There was no vote taken on it. As a director of the LGC, I'm very concerned about the legality of individuals representing a local government corporation, which is an organization that's created and defined under the state statutes. I would ask that y'all do not approve these today, and I would ask that the county attorney's office looked into who submitted these bylaws and who submitted this request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now we do have a presentation. Workforce Development Centers. Mr. Jackson. How much time are y'all gonna need for this?
We're going to have less than 15 minutes.
All right.
Commissioners and County Judge, my name is John Jackson, live at 312 Olympic Drive in Rockport, Texas. We're here to bring you and the public an update on the status of the Aransas County Workforce Development Center. But first, I thought it would help to share a brief recap from the beginning of this initiative for area citizens in and around Aransas County. The Aransas County Partnership EDC was formed in January of 20, and the idea and a concept for the Workforce Development Center was formed early in the spring of 2020, right before COVID, as I recall. Then COVID came and opened up numerous government assistance programs. One of many was the EDA grant to help stimulate the economy. And we were encouraged to apply because we all were still recovering from Hurricane Harvey. The EDC formed a 12-member committee, which I chaired, to study and recommend a plan of action. During this due diligence, a visit was made to Del Mar College West Campus, where a partnership relationship was formed. Out of that relationship, and in concert with Aransas County as the EDA grant applicant, Del Mar College executed an MOU to operate the facility if the grant was awarded to the county. So the county filed an application with EDA in August of 2020. In the meantime, we found a very suitable site which is available, and that was Little Bay Primary at 2000 Highway 35, formerly owned by ACISD, who had sold it to a private entity. As many of you recall, our original hope was to be able to receive a large enough grant to purchase both the north and south buildings on this campus. But we soon learned that there was significant multi-state competition in our region for EDA grant funding under this program, which eventually forced us to offer to purchase only the north building. This required renegotiating with the seller, which was successful. The total cost of purchasing the building and retrofitting it for this application at that time was estimated to be $2.1 million. In January of 2021, the Aransas County received a $1.7 million grant, which is coupled with $438,000 of local, mostly private, 20% match funds, which we raised in just a couple of weeks. So this project was and is a true public-private partnership with Aransas County as the owner of the land and the improvements, with Del Mar College to be the operating partner to provide the curriculum and the training to future high school students, college students, senior citizens, or those needing workforce skills and training and certification for higher paying jobs in the area. Now to bring you up to date. It should be no surprise to anyone that the estimated cost of construction material and labor in August of 2020 was significantly lower than today's cost estimates. And so that creates a need for raising additional funds and or a scaled down version of our earlier expectations and plans. We have a preliminary plan to raise these funds, but as of yet have only one pending application for funds on file and several other prospects identified if we fall short and need additional funding. But in the meantime, we have finalized construction plans and engineering specifications, and we need to find a general contractor. Del Mar College is planning to start classes this summer in a temporary location which has already been identified. You should be hearing more details about that in the very near future. A large task force that I'm a part of has been meeting bi-weekly for months. From that committee, we also have two other key players to share additional information with you today. And if you have questions, we can take them afterwards. The first is John Strothman from Aransas County, and following him will Laura Keys from Del Mar College.
Good morning. I'm John Strothman. Aransas County made application again. John just said this in August of 2020. The grant was approved in February of 2021. The end date, which we have a 5-year period, the end date is 2/9/2026. So we have time to work on this project. The grant amount was $2,138,731. The EDA contribution was $1,700. Local match was $438,000. repeat of that. The match was broken down into two categories. It's cash at $332,000. The in-kind is at $106,000. In-kind means that people are going to provide services in lieu of cash. The property purchase was $1,096,000. For the last 6 months, I took over this project after Kim's left. For the last 6 months, we've been working with Delmar Grant Works, which is our grant administrator, John Jackson, architect, MEP engineer, to develop plan specifications and a budget for this project. The plans and specifications just came out last Wednesday, so we have not had a chance to really get into this prior to this presentation, but we will come back soon as we have a better idea of how we can go about this project. There are 5 in-kind donors in this project. Delmar College, which has done a lot of the upfront work. They're going to contribute. They've been contributing their IT design. They're contributing a lot of materials and things like that. Turner Ramirez is providing their architectural services as an in-kind donation. City of Rockport will be providing us with taps and other things so we can make this building independent of the building next door. Fire flow line, fire line. Aransas ISD is in the building right now working. They've been working on it, off and on between their own projects and removing all the old, what they call low voltage IT stuff. I mean, there's generations of wire in there that has to be removed, all that low voltage, telephone, all that stuff. So, and in Aransas County, we are going to go in and do work on the building ourselves. I haven't developed a list yet with Renee and other department heads, but we're going to create a list of things that the people can do to get the building ready for the general contractor. As John noted, we're going to be working on, once we have a better handle on design and cost and what can be done, what can't be done, it'll make our ability to go out and get, additional funds a lot easier. Once EDA approves this project, they have to approve everything we're doing, the plans, specifications and stuff. And we're going to go out for permits. We have RFPs for a general contractor. The bidding process will take 2 to 3 months. And then we go into construction time, which will be 8 months, 10 months tops. So that is where we're at. Not looking like we're going to get done in 2022 for sure, but we will get it done in 2023. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there actually a contract between us and Delmar? Or are we still working off of the
That I don't know that.
It's just the MOU so far. And I have a copy of that from way back, but if you wouldn't mind, Lenore, shooting me a copy, because I'm not sure I can find it.
Commissioner, there is
Thank
a lease draft that is being circulated between myself and Mr. Rivera. So we are pretty close to having something ready to go.
Okay.
John-
Would you mind sending me the draft?
Sure.
Is that all right?
Go ahead.
I'd be happy to.
You went through those dates and I appreciate your speed, but could you say what you thought was the estimated date of completion?
There is no, it's going to be in 2023. We have to have a start before we can have an end.
Correct.
So
Maybe
once-
the end of 2002.
but it'll be in sometime 2023 at this point. I don't have a start period, so I can't give you an end date.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, Colin. I've got a brief PowerPoint. Colin, there we go. Trying to get it up. Let me go ahead and start. I'm Lenore Keys. I'm Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Delmar College, and I appreciate your time this morning. I know we've met many times before. Here we go. This slide basically summarizes everything that John Jackson and John Strothman have just said. I'm not going to go over in great detail, but I do think it's important to have a summary as a visual as you go through, and as anyone asks you a question, this will show exactly where we are and what's taken place so far. Right now, all the partners have come together. Delmar College is prepared to offer programs and to continue to work together as we have in the past. This slide is showing our programs of area that we're going to focus on. And when we look at building trades, public safety, that could be EMS, paramedic, also your light manufacturing and light industrial work, and your health sciences. And the health sciences is an area that we intend to start this summer as soon as we can. We are working right now with a partnership with the Baptist Church to go ahead and start those programs in certified nurse, phlebotomy, and those types of programs. In addition to that, we're going to start some maritime programs over in that building. We can also bring in a mobile construction unit, and we've done that since 2017, really over here with Rebuild Texas after Hurricane Harvey. It was very successful. So we begin to offer programs as soon as we can this summer, and we will continue those throughout the fall in these areas.
Where are your classes going to be this summer?
They're going to be at the First Baptist Church in their
Oh,
back.
that's what you meant by the partnership. Okay.
Yes. Mhm. We're in the finalization of that agreement and to get those started probably in July, mid to late July.
In that activity room behind the church? Is that what you're,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So these are the different areas that you can see. And when you see the plans, all these areas are highlighted within those plans. And I'll be glad to share this PowerPoint with you.
Yes, please.
So you'll have it in writing and you can show everybody, anyone that asks any questions. Our programs that we do at Del Mar College that are workforce oriented are tied to the Texas Workforce Commission in-demand job occupations. And we tie those to the region. And this is a listing of those types of programs. Most of them can receive supplemental funding from the Texas Workforce Commission, and they do lead to jobs within this region. And so that's where we focus within our programs. These programs will evolve over the next few years, and most of these programs are all offered right now at Del Mar College. This is the original plans that you saw for the program. Many of you were there in October of last year. And if you walked through the building, pretty much this is what it looked like. It is color coded and with the programs down the right column that shows where we intend to offer those types of programs in specialized areas. And part of the plans that have been prepared are providing the types of infrastructure that will support these programs. This is just a rendering of Turner Ramirez's donation over the last year, where they have donated their time and effort and professional development of the plans and specifications that are required to move forward for bid and to submit to the EDA for final approval. So that stage is completed, and they have been able to bring in a variety of consultants with this. So this is a big thank you to Turner Ramirez as architects. Turner Ramirez is an architectural group over in Corpus Christi, local people. Philip Ramirez grew up in Portland. Some of you may know Philip. So for their donation, our commitment here, I think it's very significant. They've done several buildings for us on site at Del Mar College over the last few years, and it's been very productive and very successful. So here's where we are today. With the increased cost of materials due to inflation and time, which I think everybody's pretty much aware of, we know that we're going to be over budget, and the final budget will be determined when we go out on bid. We are actively seeking private and public donations, and I feel comfortable that we will reach those. The college is prepared and has identified significant resources in the area that will help on the remodeling of the building. We're prepared to bring those on site as needed in a variety of ways. We're estimating, we hope to open up in summer of 23. I know John said 2023, but we're targeting the summer of 23, so a year from now, hopefully if everything comes together and everything's complete. One of the things that Del Mar College has worked significantly on over the last year is to have this site fully accredited. Our accreditation as a college comes from the Southern Association and Commission on Colleges and Schools. This is the regional accreditation that accredits the University of Texas, Texas A&M, or any major college or university in the state of Texas. And for us to open up a new site, we have to have preliminary approval and accreditation. And we've done all that work. And I share that with you today kind of as a reassurance as to the determination and dedication that Del Mar has to this project. for us to receive accreditation for the site is significant and is being submitted. And we will find out, it takes about a year to come back, but all of our sites are accredited. As you may know, we offer dual credit courses right now at Rockport High School. And that site is approved and accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, just like all of our other dual credit sites, our centers, and our campuses. So I offer this just as to show part of the work that's been taking place over the last 6 months, really. And that finishes what I have to offer, and I'm ready for any questions.
Lenora,
Yes.
we're going to offer this to the kids in the high school and to the general public.
We're going to primarily focus on the general public, to the adult learner to start with. We right now offer dual credit in the high school.
Okay.
But if space is available and programs are demanded, we would offer dual credit.
The dual credit at the high school, that's about how many students are involved in that? Do you know offhand? Or just
No, I don't. We're located in 27 different school districts right now, and up to 41, depending on the year. And about 20% of our student body comes from dual credit.
good.
So we're very good with it.
Lenore, there have been some recent increases in requirements for commercial driver's licenses. I know y'all teach them in Corpus. Is there any chance that y'all might be able to teach that here? Because I know the county, I'm sure the city, the school district, and a lot of people here locally need people that are qualified to do that. And my understanding is the class is about $5,000 now, plus somebody would have to go to Corpus. So I would think if we can fit that in, it'd be nice to have something like that here in town where people who live here wouldn't have to.
Yes, we could do that. And we actually have a mobile unit that houses simulators for the CDL. We have a commercial truck driving class A and B, and we could offer that here. We have 18 18-wheeler trucks, 2 buses, and a tanker. And so we're fully certified in that area, and we could, on demand, put one over here. There's no reason why we couldn't. And we could probably start that up this summer. I'll tell you though, our classes, they're $45. We're going to $4,500 starting in September 1. They're $4,000 right now. So, and there is TWC funding available for part of those. If the individual meets the requirements, Texas Workforce Commission will pay about half of it. So, yes, sir. We'll be glad to. Good idea.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lenora.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, under consent agenda, we have 2, 4, 9 items, and again, animal control is most of them. But I'd like to recognize anonymous donor to the Aransas County Assistance Department for Crime Victims Program, and $100 from HD and CE Schultz for Aransas County purchase books, and it goes from there. $500 from Wendy Lawbach, $100 from Richard Birchfield, $50 from David Clocar, $50 from Mr. Smith, $50 for Jensen's, or $1,000 for Jensen Smith, and another $100 for Karen Small, offer animal control. Oh, yeah, animal controls and supplies. Congratulations, Laurie, for good job.
I move to approve the
I'll second
consent
it.
agenda.
Motion made.
I'll
Mr.
second.
Cashel, second, Commissioner Cheney. All those, any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo. Aye. Commissioner Lawbach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item number 11.
I can do this one tonight.
Go ahead.
To discuss and consider possible action to address the need for department heads and elected officials to respond in a timely fashion to the county internal audit findings and to ensure compliance with local government code section 113.002.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney. Yes, it is.
So far, it's just a discussion, I believe.
Right.
Right.
I didn't put any action item, just,
Right. So
We
that
just
wasn't
talked
a
about it.
motion. It was just a discussion.
okay.
So
Then I will not make that motion. I'll just present the item for discussion. And I distributed to members of the court and the county clerk, and I have a copy for the newspaper. If anybody else is interested, I will certainly present it. When I was voted into office and took my position on the court about 1.5 years ago, shortly thereafter, I received, as did other folks, the district judges and the members of the court, an email from the county auditor that showed that her internal auditor had gone out and made audits on several different departments. And in that letter, and there was nothing egregious found. I'm not saying that for anyone, but they do cite that per the Code of Criminal Procedure Act 103.010, receipts must show amount of money paid, the date the money was paid, identify the department and what the money covered, the name of the person who made the payment, and the name of the person who issued the receipt. And then per local government code, section 113.022, stating a county officer who receives funds shall deposit the Anyway, they need to make that deposit to the treasurer on or before the next regular business day, or at the very least within the next 7 business days after those funds are received. And then the auditor follows up with the findings and recommendations above are made in a constructive spirit with the intention of being in the best interest of your department. Please submit a written response to the above findings and recommendations concerning corrective action and follow-up within 15 days. So once I received this and looked at the different audits that were done on the departments, I sent an email to the auditor and said, please let me see what the responses are to correct these shortfalls. And the response I received was, we will be glad to, but usually we don't get any response at all. So 1.5 years later, after receiving additional reports where the internal auditor has gone in and audited the books of different departments and not receiving any follow-up from the auditor's department or those elected officials or those department heads, I would just like to bring this to the court with the suggestion that we stress that once the internal audits report is received, that department head or elected official then remit their written response to those findings and recommendations within 15 days. We follow up on what the county auditor is requesting. Now, I did visit with Commissioner Casterline when we were at our conference, and he did say that several years ago, he remembered that responses were received. However, for the last 18 months, apparently no responses have been received. And I think that we need to encourage or enforce that these are done. That was my purpose for putting this on the agenda today, and I'll be glad to discuss it with anyone.
Any more discussion or questions for Commissioner Russo?
Well, I agree with Commissioner Russo's statement, of course, and I guess we ought to talk about what would be a good step to use to try to raise awareness with the department heads and electeds. That there seems to be not enough compliance with these deadlines and not enough attention to responding to the auditor. Is anybody aware of any background that it would explain why we're not getting an answer?
No, ma'am, we're not aware of any reason that we should not be getting the answers.
I mean, one way to approach it is just to take this discussion today in our meeting as sort of a message to all department heads. Maybe we need to send out a memorandum stressing the issue from the Commissioner's Court or from the county judge's office, from the county auditor. Well, it probably needs to come from us to sort of up the level of attention.
We can do that.
I don't know if we actually need if that is something that requires a motion. Jen, would you say that's just something within the county judge's natural authority?
I would say that Judge Mills could issue a letter or memorandum on behalf of the Commissioners Court based on this conversation.
I would suggest that if it doesn't come back in a timely manner, that brought to the Commissioners Court, publicly discuss it. Why a particular department didn't respond.
We can do that. We can put them on the agenda or whatever we need to do to get the responses. Yes, sir.
Well, if we have some pending now, then we have a lot of sort of backed up issues that you ought to get a response to in the next few days. Maybe the thing to do is to take this up at the next meeting in 2 weeks and see if any of the backlog is cleared up in the meantime.
We can do that. Yes, ma'am.
And I suppose it would be appropriate for the county auditor just to send out a reminder notice for anything that's pending over the last 18 months and didn't get answered. Then we could discuss that in 2 weeks.
Okay, we can do that too, just to make sure that we get everything cleared up.
Yeah.
And again, I want to state that there is no indication that there is any kind of major problem. I just think it is important that if recommendations have been made from the auditor's office, they should be followed up upon. I think overall, the county's department heads and elected officials are doing a very good job managing their department budgets.
No, I agree. And I don't want to give anybody the impression I think that I know of anything that's a concern. I don't, but this is a procedural issue. The whole point of auditing rules is that they are a sort of a tripwire. They make it likely that you'll find out if something is of concern. So even if you don't have any concerns yet, you should have procedures that will give you warning if ever one comes up in the future.
No further discussion. We'll go to item number 12.
I move to approve a variance on Aransas County subdivision regulations on minimum lot size to allow the replat of real property located at 200 West Pompano from 2 lots into 1 lot.
Second.
Motion second, Commissioner Laubach. Any discussion? Kat, you're online? Oh. You'll do.
Okay, this is 2 small lots that are going to be platted together to make 1 lot that's still going to be smaller than our minimum lot size. Something that we do fairly routinely. Do you have any questions about this specific?
It's just an improvement in what was there. To what will be.
It is better than it is now.
But it requires a variance because it's not, it doesn't comply with the new rules, but still an improvement.
Right.
And it's grandfather, we wouldn't otherwise have the choice to force them.
Right.
How close is it to being in compliance?
Probably a good ways. So it's
75%.
It's getting close to about 2/3 of a lot of a requirement.
Remind me, what is it? Half an acre? What's our usual?
Without water and sewer, it's an acre.
Okay. Is this one?
This is a 1/4 of an acre and
This property is without water and sewer services.
Right.
So normally it would be required to be an acre.
Yeah.
And it's probably something like 2/3 of an acre after the change. Okay.
We need to have an absolute minimum, because they're all over the page. Even to be considered, it has to be 2/3 of an acre or 2/3 of the required property. Or maybe,
okay. So a lot without water and sewer has a minimum per state law, and it is an acre. But we have, I don't know, thousands of lots that were platted before and they're grandfathered in. And we come up with this a lot. We have tiny little lots that are legally allowed to have septic on. This is at least making it bigger than it was. It reduces the septic by 1, which is a good thing. It's
yeah,
the right
I understand
direction.
that, but we rarely turn these down because it is an improvement.
Right.
But I think we need to have at least an absolute minimum.
Okay.
But the problem is if we have an absolute minimum, I mean, if somebody comes to us with the request, if somebody comes to us with a request to take 2 lots to make them into 1, and it's still below the minimum and we say no, we won't have helped ourselves on this issue. We'll just have two very small lots where we could have had one slightly larger one. So that we don't have any leverage.
They could put a sewer on both lots because they're grandfathered.
Exactly. That we're going to end up with two small lots that can each have a septic unit. This way, as David says, we'll at least have one slightly larger lot that can only have one. And we'd be cutting off our nose to spot our face to say no to such a request.
David, the paperwork that came with this agenda item indicates that it only requires a half of an acre.
Okay.
And
I
this
was,
lot,
I was wondering about that. This
Okay.
probably does have Pocono water.
it does have public
So
water.
it's a half acre.
And so the new lot that will be made from the combination of these two is just shy of that. Actually,
Right. It's
it's
pretty,
almost,
yeah.
it's almost half of an acre.
So it's very close to the half acre you would.
43% instead of 50%.
Right. That isn't always the case.
Right. But this is much
Yeah.
closer to what the requirement is.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item 13, 13, sorry.
I move to approve request to increase the allowed fee for professional services to PGAL by $47,375 to compensate PGAL for the additional architectural work associated with the redesign of the community building at the Downtown Anchor Project, with the funds for the increased fee to be reallocated from grant funds available under the General Land Office Contract 20-065-098-C270.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Laubach. Any questions?
I have a question. Is there an upward limit or any ceiling that we're going to have on the additional fees to be paid to PGAL? Because
This is it. This is the last building. The other building's under construction. So yes, this is it.
this is the final one.
Right.
But
What we're-
John, isn't the reason for the fee is because when we got the bids, it was substantially
Right.
over the amount of the grant. And they had to redesign
Had to
it to try to
redesign it.
get the cost of the building where it
Right.
could come within the grant.
What happened is we had a budget. The design the design that was made and completed was made to meet in the budget. It met the budget in December. When the bids started coming in January, they were substantially more expensive. So what we did was we went back and we readdressed 18. We came up with 18 what they call value engineering items that we could reduce the cost of the project. And so at this point, we're going to do is redesign the roof, redesign a few things to kind of reduce the cost down. That's what this is about.
And how much benefit do we expect to get in the way of a reduced cost?
Right now, we have 3 items or 174,000 reduction.
Okay, so lots more savings than we're
Right.
incurring in the
Right.
increased fee.
Right. We need to be there.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Item 14,
I move to approve the change request order number 4 to the General Land Office, state contract number 20-065-098-C270 to formally document local funds in the amount of $19,004 that will be contributed in lieu of previously pledged in-kind amount of $16,054 in the architectural services for the community building and $2,500 in appraisal services for the Rockport Center of the Arts, RCA parking lot.
Second.
motion made and second, Commissioner Casterline. Discussion.
So if I understand this correctly, the change is that in 2 different projects, we originally did a grant application that assumed we'd get a certain amount of cash contributions. And in each case, we want to ask GLO to recognize that we're switching from cash to an identified in-kind contribution.
Yes, ma'am. This is basically just to clean up the spreadsheet and to report it and then recognize.
Formality.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner
We need
Russo.
to, we need to make a correction. It's actually cash in lieu of in kind. So we had it backwards. This is where there's cash coming in instead of in kind.
Oh, I see.
It's better.
All right. Let's back up. I want to amend the motion. Oh, okay.
Well, and my understanding that I stated was wrong. So the motion apparently clearly is, we expected it to be in kind, and now we have instead found contributors of cash. This is from the public. Matching, oh, matching. Okay, so in each case, it was money that the county agreed, in-kind distributions that the county agreed to put up, and the county instead put in cash. That we, and it maybe not technically matching funds, but kind of what I think of as matching funds. In other words, something the county agrees to do financially that makes the grant easier to get. Does that sound accurate? No, not quite.
The in-kind donation. What's going on with the microphones today? The in-kind that we expected were, those donations were not from the county. They were from private entities, and those in-kind donations, instead of doing that, we paid invoices with cash.
Okay, so this is a case where we thought we had community participation. The community participation for some reason didn't work out, and we stepped in and cured the deficiency out of county funds. No,
that is what I'm understanding based on reading this, unless Mr. Strothman knows otherwise.
Is that not right?
No, these are, no, with the Rockport Center for the Arts, there was someone who gave it in the state.
So we had a public cash contribution from someone on RCA, and we're not sure on the community building side. I know this is not a huge amount of money, but if there is a new county cash obligation, even one that I'm finding out about after the fact, I'd rather. Well, it was new when it was done, and we hadn't yet approved it, I guess is what I'm saying. And if we're not sure, I would rather table this and talk about it in 2 weeks when we're sure.
Let me get clarification on it, and make sure that I'm not telling you.
Okay.
We can come back to it later.
Later in the meeting. There's no problem with leaving an item and just going on with another and coming back to it, right, Jen?
We'll return to it on the
Okay.
14th.
I move to table agenda items 15, 16, 17, and 18. I had planned to ask for those to be tabled before Mr. Hutt spoke this morning, based on the fact that we did not have what was previously in the bylaws and then showing what the new amended statement would be. And I like to see the comparison of what was to what is being proposed.
I can email those to you later this afternoon or later today. I do have the amendments that were provided to our office to look at. And then those amendments I made revisions to because the county would be signing or signaling approval. But I'd be happy to email the red line comparisons to you.
That would be fine. I would still move to table those 4 items.
And I second. If you're,
Seconded.
I agree with Commissioner Russo's concerns, both the need to review a red line before we do it. So we should do it in a couple of weeks when we've had a chance to review, but also Mr. Hutt's comments raise a very serious concern with me about who originated this change and the fact that it was presented to us in a way that at least implied that the LGC was behind it, which doesn't seem to be the case. I think we probably have some homework to do over the next couple of weeks to find out where this is coming from.
Comment, may I respond?
Yes.
Drafts that were sent to me by John Bell. He performed the work on behalf of LGC. They were sent to me for review. I revised them on behalf of the county. It is my understanding that the LGC did vote on some kind of item at their most recent meeting. And I think there are a couple people here in the room that were there that day that could speak to that. But as far as there being any work done on behalf of LGC from my office, that is not the case.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that's not at all what I meant to imply. Clearly, the LGC did have a vote on the question of changing from quarterly to annual meetings, but there are 6 or 7 other changes here that they evidently didn't vote on. And Mr. Bell may consider himself to be acting on behalf of the LGC, but the LGC board director is here telling us he's not been hired. So there's just something missing, and we could use a couple of weeks to straighten it all out.
Mr. Mead, would you explain Mr. Bell's connection?
Thank you, Judge. Michael Meek, the interim president for another few days of the Aransas County Partnership EDC. The EDC did meet on May, I believe it's May 4th, and voted on items 3A and 3B, as I recall, to amend the bylaws. The reason for this is that at the end of this year, the LGC times out unless the interlocal agreements are renewed. That was one reason to do that. The other reason is that when you adopted incentive policies back in February and the city of Rockport adopted theirs in March, it created a process to where those entities, your Commissioners Court, for example, is in control of their process for an economic development incentive. It doesn't roll through another entity like an LGC. So it puts the county in direct control of that process. It also creates the board. The LGC also said there's no reasons to make financial contributions after the end of this year. If the EDC wants to contract directly with one of the entities, they could do so. Right. You've had a system for 2 years where it's kind of a one size fits all. So all those things were talked about, and they talked about not doing away with the LGC because it's a 501c3. They're very hard to get created, but keep it alive, but just go to annual meetings unless it's on call. So in the absence of not having paid retainers, Mr. Bell, who worked on some of the original documentation, offered to do this. The LGC and the local entities are not paying for any of this, any of these drafts. The idea was that the drafts would come to the entities. As Mr. Hutt said, the entities look at these drafts, they make proposed changes to it, and then we have a special meeting of the LGC to consider all these changes. So this is a process we're going through to try to get to the end. But there's a lot of steps we have to go to in order to get there.
It sounds like it was a meeting of the EDC, not the LGC.
No, sir, it was the LGC meeting.
Because you said EDC, I was going to ask that. You said the EDC met in May.
And Mr. Meek's comments only raise my concerns to a higher level because you keep talking about we and what John Bell believed he was doing on behalf of the LGC and so forth. The LGC board did not vote to authorize any of that. So I understand that there are people outside the LGC. I understand that there are people outside the LGC who have an agenda here, but I am not hearing that it properly went through the LGC board, except for the limited issue of changing from a quarterly to an annual meeting. And that's what we need clarified.
There were more things voted on besides that, yes.
We have a board member here who says not, and I follow those meetings as well. We need a couple of weeks to sort that out.
It was a 3-1 vote. We have the minutes, but
that's something we should work out in the next couple of weeks.
There's nothing nefarious going on here.
Whether it's nefarious or not, it's quite irregular, and the line of communication and authority has been significantly blurred. I would like it clarified before we vote.
Certainly.
The agenda item that Mr. Meek is talking about was simply to move from quarterly meetings to yearly meetings. My concern is I never meant to, first of all, I never meant to imply that the county attorney's office redid these. John Bell is not our attorney. John Bell is the EDC's attorney.
Yes.
So what you have here is you have the corporation, the private company that does not have open meeting act requirement, does not have any of these things, who we contracted out writing new bylaws on their own and presenting it. We never approved any of the bylaws except for the one change that I mentioned, and we never approved bringing those bylaws to the Commissioner's Court.
Any further discussion?
So the motion to table is the one that's now active.
Roll call.
I need a second. Oh, wait, I got it.
I second
Excuse
it.
me.
Yeah.
Roll call.
This is for tabling. Commissioner Cheney.
I'm not ready to vote yet. Got a question. We seem to be making a lot to do over who does what here. And to be honest with you, I'm a little bit confused. Okay, so what we're talking about here is going from quarterly meetings to annual meetings, right? That's all we're talking
And
about.
no, 5 or 6 other things, very important things.
Okay, well, let me reread this item then. Okay, so here it says flexibility to the number of.
Right. A proposal to pack the board, to put more members on it, because right now there's a real danger after 6 months that it'll be a 2-2 split.
Forgive me, I cannot seem to turn this thing off. Oh. If, it seems like, I don't mind tabling it, but it just seems like I'm making a lot of to do over nothing. I'm not sure I understand what the other to do is.
But the fact that we don't really understand what the controversy is exactly the reason to table.
Right. May I make a suggestion so that all the cards continue to be on the table? I would suggest that maybe now that the county legal has made some changes to the documents, which was given as a draft, just to start the process, let the LGC have a special meeting, consider these amendments to the bylaws and everything else, and then we could come back to the Commissioners Court with the actions of the LGC.
That sounds like a good idea, but when that's done, could we still see what the initial
Oh, absolutely.
statement was versus what the proposed is? All right, thank you. I think that's a very good suggestion, Mr. Meek.
So are we striking these rather than tabling them?
We could still table them.
I think we
couldn't
just tabled them.
We're going to bring them back.
We'll bring them back when the situation changes,
Okay.
if and when.
So are we ready to vote to table?
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. That's 14, 15, 16.
Number 19 is where we are, I think. Is that correct?
Go all the way down to 19.
I move to approve the May 2022 Treasurer's Report.
Second.
We go,
Motion made, second Commissioner Castelline. Any discussion?
any questions?
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
Commissioners, can we go back to item 14 now that Tish is here?
And get this.
Jen, could you please repeat what you said?
I asked if we could return to item 14 now that Tish is here with us.
Oh, right. So the in-kind versus cash, can you help us understand that, Tish? What changed?
This was not ever considered in kind. This was local funds that were to be contributed by the county for the GLO grant. There was under a recent review of a draw request, the amount that would show under the local funds in the GLO state contract did not reflect the $2,500 in appraisal services for the RCA parking lot. And the GLO has requested this to be a formal change request to add that dollar amount in to the complete total of the county funding that was previously obligated towards this grant.
Okay, I may still be confused, but does that mean we originally thought it would be cash from the county and instead
It's
the
always
county?
been cash from the county.
Right,
There
the
was
original
never-
application was written up so that it would be cash from the county. And the change is what? We found somebody to do an in-kind in our behalf instead, or? I'm
There
still
was
not-
never in kind.
So what are we changing?
The RCA parking lot appraisal services for $2,500 was not ever included.
So it was zero in the budget before, and we've found a new good thing, and it takes the form of an in-kind contribution by the public.
In-kind should not be used. It was not ever.
So it's on
In
the
kind.
agenda item. as
Correct.
in kind.
Right.
The
So
agenda item is wrong.
if it's somebody who, a member of the public came up with a cash
The public
contribution,
was never requested to come up with money.
where did the money come from?
This was always to come from the county.
Okay.
The $2,500 appraisal services were already paid by the county.
Oh.
It was not included in the state contract to reflect that $2,500 as the other funds that are showing there for the 16,000 were.
So what, to make it,
I think the confusion that is continuing and persisting with this is because it does state in kind, and that is incorrect.
okay, in the original application, we did not mention $2,500 that we intended to use for an appraisal, and we then actually spent the $2,500 and need to, we need to change the record with the GLO.
Right. It needs to be stated. And
The reason I state it that way is because presumably when the Commissioners Court met and approved the grant, we didn't approve this part. And again, I realize it's a small amount, but I'm just trying to make sure we're running the right traps for when we make a change in what the county is committed to do.
I was not a part of the application process, so I was not
But
privy
you're saying it's not in
to how
the-
this was created originally. But the GLO grant manager, John Bastero, did notice that this $2,500 is not reflected as showing county obligation and
Okay.
needs to be clarified and ratified to be included in the state contract.
Okay, so
my
one way to look,
question to the-
hold on, just one, I'll be finished in 1 second. One thing that could have happened is we didn't put it in the grant application, though we meant to, and now we're fixing that. The other is we did put it in the grant application, but somehow it didn't show up on the GLO's records, and we're sort of ratifying that. And those are different because one involves a decision we made a couple of years ago to approve a certain expenditure level that we're not changing. It just didn't get in the paperwork. The other is we meant to include it a couple of years ago when we approved it, but we left it out somehow, and now we want to fix that. And one involves actually agreeing to spend money that we didn't previously agree to spend. And so we need to make sure the record reflects that we've thought about why we should spend the money. We wish we'd always done it from the start, and we don't have any problem with it now.
This money has already been spent. I don't have the records in front of me. I was not prepared to come in here this morning
But if it was
to
spent in
have that
error,
information, but it
I mean, it could have been
was done
spent,
before the RCA parking lot construction was started.
it could have been spent in innocent error. I don't have any problem with it. It's just that the way you clean it up is different if that's what happened. If even if we meant it to be in the application somehow, who knows how that line item got dropped. Now we want to fix it. It's a different kind of record that we make.
Yes,
I'm just not sure if that's what happened.
And this is the GLO and GrantWorks recommendation to correct the $2,500 not reflected in the state contract is to submit this change request number 4.
I have a question to Ms. Osteen. Should we put this back on the agenda differently worded, or is the wording okay?
I think that we probably should go ahead and strike this item and bring it back at the next meeting with the correct wording. And I will work with Tish and Jackie so we can make sure that we do that correctly. I do think that $2,500 was always part of the project. It's just that the GLO has to document what portion of costs were done as a local match.
Yeah.
And that $2,500 was part of the county's contribution.
Right. So if a couple of years ago when we approved this, we included this expenditure, and this is just a way of accounting for it differently, that's so easy to fix. That's what I want to figure out. If we
It's
somehow
not-
didn't manage to approve it a couple of years ago,
It's
then we need
not
to
part of
approve
our
it now.
record that's being corrected. It's the GLO's record that's being corrected.
Nevertheless, my decision whether to correct it with the GLO depends on whether we have fixed whatever we did wrong internally.
I don't know that we did anything
We
wrong.
may not
but-
have. That's what I need to know.
But I'm asking that you strike the item and let us
Right.
bring it back next time, and
Yeah,
hopefully
right.
we'll have a lot more
I
information.
move
for
to
you.
table.
And that's what I
item
need
14.
before next time is my point.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, table, agenda item 14. Any discussion? Roll call.
My only discussion is I want to make it clear that I'm making a request that issue be resolved in the new materials we get before in 2 weeks, because it should be easy to fix. I just need to know what action we're taking exactly.
was made. We have a second.
I think there is a second.
Mr. Castellane. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castelline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Law.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
Item is tabled.
Item 20.
Move to approve the May 2022 Auditor's Monthly Report.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castelline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Law.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. 21.
I move to approve the May 2022 Auditor's Monthly Report.
I did say that.
Oh, I thought,
We're on 21.
oh, 21, I'm sorry. I move to accept the Aransas County Annual Financial Report for the year ending December 31st, 2021, as presented in the June 13th, 2022 by Wayne Bear and Company, certified CPA.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Castelline. Discussion.
Did we get the answer to the question that
Wasn't any-
Commissioner?
We raised a question about the change in the present value of the pension obligations. I don't know that we got anything. I didn't get anything from the outside auditor.
Those are all calculated by TCDRS. We get that document from them.
He undertook to, I think, answer a question. I'm just saying, I don't think we got one.
I never received anything.
I don't remember the question. I don't know that you can change an audit, but
It's not that he needed to change the audit. He was going to answer a question about what the audit results meant. And he didn't have the information handy and undertook to look into it and get back to us, as I recall.
I'm not sure.
Maybe not.
That's what he said. He talked about one of the reports, and Linda, if you remember differently, please jump in. But he talked about one of the reports that TCDRS prepares for the county. And I said, that wasn't what I was asking about. What I did do was when I was at conference a week ago or 2 weeks ago in Corpus Christi, TCDRS was there. And I asked for the plan assessment. And although they gave it to me for the year after the one that this audit reviews, it did explain several assumptions that are made as far as the actuarial tables and our rates of contribution. And so it answered the question I had.
Could we either put that record in the minutes of the meeting, or can you just tell us how it answered your question? Because that should resolve it.
It's a very detailed report. I'd rather just put it in the minutes.
Is that okay with everybody?
What are you saying? You don't really need an answer from the auditor. because
Correct.
You got it from TCER.
Right. If it comes from anybody, that's fine.
all right. With that,
I did
correct.
have a couple of questions though. On pages 95 and 96. Yes, ma'am. And maybe, did Tish go away? All right. Well, anyway, on 96, towards the bottom where it shows TDM and the different grants. And it's showing the hazard mitigation grant for Fulton Beach Road, for Lamar Beach Road, for Shell Ridge Road. This isn't really because of the audit. I'm just curious if we have any kind of status update on those projects. And so looking at the audit just reminded me. And if you want me to ask that question some other time, I'm fine doing that, or if John's ready.
Yes, ma'am. We'll probably need you because that would be something that John would do, and it's not actually for the audit.
Okay.
It's not on the agenda.
All right. And then the other one was just a note that on page 101 of the financial review, the auditor does talk about the importance of internal control. And he is not citing that there is any problem in Aransas County, but I just wanted to note that going along with my request, I think affirms the importance that we do have an oversight of the internal audit and we make sure there's accountability. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Castelline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Law.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye.
Number 22.
All right, let's go.
I move to approve authorizing the county judge to sign the county request for capital credits and submit to the Texas Comptroller Unclaimed Property Division, and further authorize the county treasurer to disperse any said funds received from the Texas Comptroller as follows: 1/2 to Aransas County Library Literacy Program and 1/2 to the Children's Coalitions of Aransas County.
I'll second that. And I also want to thank Treasurer Cartwright for her explanation of
Motion
the
made, seconded. Okay, ma'am.
agenda item and recognize the good work of your department. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, and that it just is, what are our options here? I mean, do we have does the statute control to whom we can offer these funds? How do we
Right.
decide it would be these two entities and half and half?
There is a list of what we can spend the money on. The two that I would suggest doing is either the literacy program or to a children's advocacy center.
What are the other options? I think that's what she's asking.
Small business advantage development, which is taken care of. Otherwise, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Promote advertising, which is taken care of by the chamber. So a lot of the things that they have listed that you spend the money on are already considered other way.
The one I always have my ears perked for, or is anything to do with animal control? Is that not one of the ones that's eligible for this treatment?
No, it's not.
Okay, so these just look to you like the ones, two best off the list that the statute allows us to consider.
Right.
Thank you.
And so we don't know how much we're going to get till we get it. And Iris is usually, we usually give it to the literacy program at the library, and she is in agreement to whatever we get this year to go half and half.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Item 23.
I move to approve increasing the rental supplement paid to the South Texas Family Planning and Health Corp from the current budgeted amount of $990 per month to $1,000 per month, that being a $10 increase, effective for the months of July through December 2022, to be paid out of the healthcare sales tax fund.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Commissioner Casterline. Any discussion? If not, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Laubach.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. 24.
These are not action items.
All
24
right,
through
discuss a
27.
request for a new employee handbook policy regarding mental health leave and peace. So,
I had one question with that. Whenever you get up there, Ms. Stone. It seemed like a fairly short period of time, if like a tragic death or officer involved shooting or an accident or something like that. Just, it didn't look like we give them very much time.
Well, this one here is coming from new state law, and I think Jen could probably answer questions regarding it a little better than I can.
Well, now this is required, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's a minimum
saying is-
required, and he's thinking it might be more.
As I was saying, our policy doesn't allow very much time for any type of mental health things that would come from a traumatic event. I just wondered if we might want to think about that.
Does it give us any leeway, or is it a flat amount?
We do have other policies in our handbook that allow for leave in these circumstances. And in addition to that, if there is a mental health crisis, an employee may qualify for leave under the Americans with Disabilities Act, separate and apart from the policies we have. We do have a leave of absence that can be offered, leave without pay. There's the FMLA leave that's available. So the question really becomes whether it's paid leave or job protected leave. But in this case, the state legislature deemed it necessary for peace officers that there be a short-term paid leave available because of the circumstances in which they work every day. So this is the minimum that's required under state law. It doesn't mean that the county can't choose to do more. I would suggest, though, that we do that on a case-by-case basis, depending on the needs of the employee.
If it was work related, wouldn't it fall back to workman's comp?
It could.
It
yes.
could. That's our favorite answer of all time, is it could. It depends.
But this is something that the state is now mandated.
That's correct.
Yes. I had a question for you, Linda, and I'm perfectly fine with this, and not that we have a choice anyway. But could you just cite who the members of the handbook committee and the benefit committee are?
The.
Or do you want to send it to us?
I can send it.
Okay,
to you.
do
That would be
that,
much
do
easier
that.
because our benefit committee is actually pretty much anybody who's volunteered to want to come and participate. The policy committee is one that the court actually assigned. So I can send you that list.
That would be great. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Go ahead.
Okay, the next three policies are things that the benefit committee and the policy committee both have discussed and would like to request changes to. The first one is the vacation leave, which through much discussion, the committee, especially the benefit committee, feels that having 1 week available after 6 months of hire rather than having to wait the entire year to get your 2 weeks would be a much better draw for new employees to get more, because that's a long time to have to wait, really. So that's
It's also beneficial to the departments not to have that big of a vacation all at one time.
jump in. Yeah, that is true. So is there any questions about the vacation leave request?
I would just say that the business standard is generally you have no vacation until you've been there for at least a year. And I certainly support that concept.
I can see that. I mean, we probably have two competing concerns. One is it's an attractive thing to offer people as a perk, but from our point of view, you don't necessarily want to be giving vacation to people who may stay only for 6 weeks and then leave.
6 months.
6 months, sorry, and leave. I can't say that I have a strong feeling about it. It's just something you have to balance.
Well, that's why we had looked at the possibility of 1 week that would be available in 6 months.
Well, I know,
And-
I understand that it would still be 2
Right.
weeks for the whole year.
Right.
But it's not completely free to us. I mean, we're not paying for extra vacation, but we're exposed to the risk of somebody working for us only 6 weeks and getting a week's vacation, 6 months and then getting a 1 week vacation. I don't know how dangerous a concern that is, but as Commissioner Rousseau points out, it's not the business standard. The business standard is you show some longevity before you start taking vacation benefits. Now, in the second and third year, shouldn't matter at all. But in the first year, there is an issue.
You also have to remember a lot of employees, when they come on, they're already losing vacation from wherever they left. So that was one of the points that the benefit committee wanted to present. So
And Linda, don't they currently accrue leave starting when they begin working here anyway?
they do start accruing on day one. They're just not allowed to use it.
So
until
if
they've
somebody
been here
quits
for
at
a
6
year.
months, do we pay out the leave
No.
they've accrued?
No.
So we would have up to a 1 week added liability if somebody left after the 6 months, but before a year,
Yes.
but only during that 6-month window.
Right.
Well, actually, if we started doing that, if a person leaves after they've been with the county 10 or 11 months, we are free of paying any of the vacation.
Exactly, during the 6-month window between 6 months and 12 months.
Any other questions on that one?
No.
Okay, the emergency bereavement and funeral leave, the only request that we're asking is right now, our policy states that an employee can only take 4 hours maximum to go to a funeral for someone that's not an immediate family member. We're requesting that they be allowed to take at least a full day, so 8 hours.
For anybody that's not a family member.
For anybody that's not a family member that they want to, an immediate family member that they want to go to a funeral for.
But there is a limit on how much of this would be available per year. I thought this was a
Correct,
really
correct.
great addition.
And what is the limit per year?
It's 8 hours is the limit or the maximum for regular funeral leave. And it's 24 hours for emergency leave for an immediate family member.
So I'm sorry, say again. So what's the change that we're proposing?
Right now, you can only take up to 4 hours to go to a funeral for,
And we're gonna
say, a
raise that
friend
to 8.
or an aunt or something along those
Well,
lines.
you
Yes.
Can't you go twice? though,
You can
during
go
the year?
twice.
So it's the
within a
same number
year,
of hours?
But you can only use 4 at a time. So now we're requesting that if somebody, because they already have 8 hours, but they can only take 4 of it at one shot.
And now we're
asking
saying
that
you can
they could be
take
able to take the whole
all 8 at
hours
once if
one
you like.
time.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
No, and I'm sorry, go back to the first one. What's the change in the state law that makes us give more mental health leave to officers? What's the change there in terms of the amount we're having to offer more? How much were we offering? How much are we now offering?
We don't offer a mental health leave at all right now.
Okay, so it's from 0 to, and now it's what?
What was it, 24
3
hours?
days?
Well,
It's 3 working days.
3 working days. Okay, got it. Thank you.
in the event of a traumatic event, the sheriff has some leeway in that from his supervisor, whether or not that officer is capable of coming back to work after the event. So it's kind of a moot point, but it does make that available.
Aren't we on
I think-
26 now?
I'm sorry.
I reverted.
We were on 26.
I reverted with a question to number
Back up.
24. I apologize. And that's my only question. I didn't have any other issue.
How many people a year do we have go to funerals?
I'm sorry?
Do you keep records of how many people go in a year's time to funerals?
We don't have a lot, no. I don't know. I don't have an exact number, but I'd say maybe, 4 or 5 a year, probably. There may be more, but
It seems to me like we're kind of getting into the weeds, getting down.
Well, we already allow this. Did you not say
yes,
that?
yes, we already allow it. The only difference is, if somebody has a relative in San Antonio, or not a relative, a friend in San Antonio, and they want to go to the funeral, 4 hours is minimal to be able to get there and back. So this just allows them to have the full 8 hours at one shot.
Have we actually had this come up, or we're just sort of looking forward to a possible problem?
Actually, we've had
it come up.
individuals that have.
Well, it seems to me like if it's not a family member, close relative or something like that, if they want to go up there to the funeral, and if they've got some vacation, they can just take vacation. I have a problem with, like Commissioner Castle, I have a bit of a problem with it being a whole day off. How many times they get to take that a year?
Once.
They already
It's-
get-
It's still.
they already
only
get 8 hours.
They're already getting 8 hours a year that they can use for this.
We were just making them break
The
it up
only-
into 2 4-hour breaks.
The only change is that we were
So
requiring
change
them
it and
to
let-
use.
Why don't you just change it and let them use all 8 hours whenever they want to?
That's what she
we're
does.
Requesting, yes. That's what we're requesting. The policy, however, is written right now that they can only take a maximum of 4 hours at a time.
Well, I don't have a problem with doing that on 8 hours. That's not very clear on here. It sounds like you just want to talking about opening it up.
It's just
Language itself.
revising.
I was just going to, if you don't mind, I'd like to read what the policy says. The new language is discretionary funeral leave. At the discretion of the department head, regular full-time employees may be allowed a maximum of 8 hours each calendar year of paid funeral leave to attend a funeral of a relative who is not a member of the immediate family or for the funeral of a friend. Earlier in the policy, there are definitions for immediate family member also. So it is pretty narrow, but the idea being that once a year, if somebody loses someone in their family or somebody who's a very close friend, that they would have the ability to go. This is really important for the employees we have that don't have vacation. For example, those employees that work here for that first year and have no vacation, if their mother or father or friend dies, then they're without any time to take to go help their family or to grieve.
It doesn't change actually the financial liability
No, it
of the county
doesn't.
or the cost.
No,
It's
they're
just
taking
giving
it-
more discretion to the employee and to the
I don't have a
department.
problem with that. I
Correct.
might be biased because I once had an employee that the same relative died 3 times. I
Yeah,
didn't catch it
really.
till the third time.
Well, there's still department discretion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if someone's claiming the same person, we should be looking into that.
But I do appreciate how you gave us what the policy said, the red line version and then the clean version. That makes it much easier to see what we're exchanging. So thank you for doing that. Linda, can I
27.
ask a question on this?
Does this have anything to do with, I know in the long time ago, I was not eligible to get funeral expense because my sister's husband died, my brother-in-law, as opposed to my husband's brother, would have been paid because they considered that to be actual family, but my sister's husband, both would have been brother-in-laws, but that one would be covered under this new policy, but was not covered under the previous.
I'll answer that if you like.
Yes.
The
please.
new definition that we've written in the beginning of the policy for immediate family member is expanded and does handle the situation that you just described. It says that an immediate family member includes the employee's spouse, parent, step-parent, foster parent, father-in-law, mother-in-law, children, stepchildren, foster children, sons-in-law, daughters-in-law, grandparents, grandchildren, siblings, sibling spouse, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, and first cousin.
What
It
about
does not include your spouse's
Sibling.
siblings, spouse, but under relative, as a relative is a family member of the employee's family who is not the employee's immediate family member. So they would be covered. A great aunt, great uncle, second cousin, or the spouse of a spouse's sibling would all be eligible for funeral leave, just not the emergency or bereavement leave. So those new definitions clarify that there is some leave available in that situation. It's just limited to 8 hours instead of the 24.
That's simple enough.
I'd just like to say that I think my sister's husband would have been more important to me than a cousin.
All right. Thank you. Any other discussion? Item 27.
Discuss a proposed employee handbook policy revision to include specific vesting requirements for the county's retirement system to reduce the vesting period from 10 years to 8 years and approve other changes intended to clarify language and organize information.
Now, remind me
Okay.
what we did last year.
Last year,
We changed it
had-
from 8 to 10? Are we going-
No,
it
last
was
year we
10.
had, we had looked at the possibility of reducing from 10 to 8.
And didn't
But
do
our
it,
rates
right.
had gone up. Last year, they went up to 10.07, which is what we're paying currently for this year in our rates. The benefit, the committee or the court declined making the change last year because it would have increased our amount of money out of pocket significantly. The benefit committee still does like the idea of reducing to 8 as a drawing benefit for new employees. And I did run the numbers. This year, our rates are going down from 10.07 to 8.94, which is a significant drop. And if we make the 8-year vesting change, just the 8-year vesting change, our rate only goes up to 9.42, which is still lower than what we are this year, a little bit higher than what it would be if we didn't make the change.
What's the annual dollar amount we're looking at?
Depends on
Um,
the salaries.
Just a rough idea of how much this would cost us to do,
I think
to change.
I think you need to have a more long-term calculation than just the 1 year, because
Yeah.
it's gonna
What-
affect for.
What makes that go up and down? Every year? Does it go up or down?
It
Varies with the market.
Yeah, it's a very large and in-depth study that they do, the same thing that Pat was
Yeah,
referring to
I-
earlier.
I know you can't give us an absolute number and it probably needs to be a longer term number than 1 year, but I'm trying to get a scale. Are we talking about a few $1,000s, a few $100,000? How much is this likely to cost in, say, this year?
This year,
Well, or any typical, just give me, I'm asking for a real back of the envelope estimate number of, give me an idea of the scale of the issue.
okay, well, for this year, at the current rate that we're at, our actuary accrued liability is going to be 40,400, I'm sorry, 40,451,440. That's what it is already. To make the change, it's showing 40,567,163.
What are we out of pocket is what I'm trying to figure.
We're,
What does it
Commissioner
not?
Lawback, we will have to get back, we'll calculate that and get it to commissioners because we're not comfortable just giving you a
Okay, I mean,
arbitrary number right now.
and we're not voting on it today. I'm just,
Right.
just know.
We
I-
will
It
get
makes a
something
difference
to
to
you.
me whether we're talking about increasing our bill by $500 or a couple $100,000. I'm just trying to get an idea.
Yes, ma'am. We understand. We'll get that for you and get it
And
to
I'd like to
Commissioner.
see it ran out over 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
See what our costs are with that, because it's not, it's gonna be happening every year from now on. whatever.
Right. And,
Right.
and unless this was a change that we're talking about only to happen for 1 year, we need to look at not just whether the rates went down as a blip 1 year, but what's the long-term trend.
Those
We can do
numbers will
that.
be harder to get to go out several years, only because it's based on the calculations, the actuarial
No, I-
calculations, and it's based on age of your workforce.
I
the-
agree.
the
And
years
that's
of
why
service,
that's
that
why we
type of
might be
stuff.
reluctant to vote for a change that's permanent based on one blip in a 1 year temporary decrease in a, I mean,
I would
it's,
think that TCVRS
We'll-
could
we'll-
give
we'll-
us some kind of.
they
projection.
can.
They will. So we'll work on that and get you some numbers.
All right, if no further discussion on that. Item 28,
Move to approve budget line item transfers.
I'll second that.
motion made, seconded.
We have none at this time.
All right, any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline,
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laba,
aye.
Judge Mills.
All right. 29,
I move to approve accounts payable and payroll liabilities.
Second.
motion made, and seconded. Commissioner Casterline, any discussion? Roll call.
Anything out of the ordinary?
We do have a bill for a new dozer for Road and Bridge. You'll notice that $143,880 came out of the 2016 COs. That is the balance of Road and Bridge's CO money. The balance, the rest of it, the 42,866 came out of the Road and Bridge Fund. Other than that, there's really not anything. There's some Cedar Bio and some other invoices that we've paid through on 430, but pretty much just standard bills.
Are the Cedar Bayou to Mont McDonald and the drilling company?
Right now, Mont McDonald, I don't remember seeing one to JM Davidson, just Mont McDonald right now.
Any further discussion? You already voted on it, right?
Yeah, I don't think we did.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo,
Aye.
Commissioner Laba,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Now's the time for any department head or elected official to bring anything up they'd like to talk about or discuss.
I have one. I just wanted to say it's been some weeks now since our Regional Pool Alliance representative agreed to get back to us with the answers that we did not receive last time she presented to us. And I understand that she had a COVID quarantine issue, but it's been many weeks. That's surely over. And it's been a long time since, for a while there, we were getting kind of in steady email traffic about developments in that field. Nothing lately, except for a demand from North Star for what could be a $5 million charge against the county. I'm really starting to worry about the time that is going by and we're not coming to grips with what we're going to have to do about Regional Pool Alliance. It's not on the agenda today. I guess I will put it on the agenda for 2 weeks from now or 3 weeks, whenever our next meeting is. But I'm hoping that there's background information that I'm just not seeing any.
All right. Anyone else? We have a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second made, and second, Mr. Cheney, or Casterline. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney,
Aye.
Commissioner Casterline, Commissioner Russo. Aye. Commissioner Laba,
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you very much.